Welcome back to the channel Wisdom of Stoicism. Have you ever spoken too soon and instantly regretted it? Have you ever argued with someone only to realize later it wasn't even worth it? Silence is a weapon, a secret tool that only the strongest people know how to use. Think about it. The most powerful people in the room aren't the loudest. They're the ones who speak less, but when they do, everyone listens. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus knew this truth well. They understood that knowing when to stay silent can protect your peace, command respect, and even outsmart your enemies. But in today's world, everyone rushes to speak. Social media, arguments, opinions, people can't help themselves. That's why those who master silence stand out. They hold the real power. In this video, we're going to break down 9 powerful situations where staying silent makes you stronger, smarter, and more in control. Some of these might surprise you, but once you learn them, you'll never look at silence the same way again. So stay with me until the end. By the time this video is over, you'll have one of the greatest life skills most people never learn. Let's get started. Situation 1. When you are angry. We've all been there. Something happens, and before you know it, your emotions are bubbling up, ready to spill over. Maybe it's an argument with a colleague, a rude comment from a friend, or a mistake someone made that affects you. Whatever it is, your heart starts racing, your palms get sweaty, and that familiar surge of anger takes over. In that moment, everything in you wants to shout, to lash out, to make them feel exactly how you feel. But here's the truth. Reacting in anger almost never helps. In fact, it usually makes things worse. We've all experienced it, the feeling of regret that follows an angry outburst. The words we speak in the heat of the moment are often ones we can't take back. And even if we try to apologize later, the damage has already been done. This is where the Stoics have valuable advice. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that we have control over one thing, our reactions. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." What this means is, when anger takes hold, you don't have to give in to it. You can choose to pause, to breathe, and to think before you speak. Imagine this scenario. You're at work, and your boss criticizes you in front of your team. The words hit you like a punch to the gut. You feel your face flush, your chest tightens, and your mind races with 1,000 things you want to say in retaliation. You want to defend yourself, to explain why you're right, to make sure they understand that it wasn't your fault. But in that moment, you choose silence. You take a deep breath, step back mentally, and don't say a word. You simply let the moment pass, and instead of reacting impulsively, you gain control of the situation. You allow yourself a moment to process, to think clearly, and to decide what response would be most effective. Not just to defend yourself, but to keep your dignity intact. Why is silence so powerful in this situation? When you stay silent, you deny anger the chance to take over. You refuse to play into the drama, and you don't let anyone drag you into an emotional response. Instead of reacting, you're responding with wisdom. You are in control, not the situation. Now, here's the key. It's not just about keeping quiet to avoid conflict. It's about giving yourself space to think clearly. Silence gives you that opportunity. It helps you avoid rash decisions and prevents you from saying things you'll regret. By staying silent, you create room for rational thought. You take the time to ask yourself, what do I want to achieve here? What is the best way to handle this situation? The best part? When you choose silence, others will notice. They may expect you to react, to fire back, but instead you remain calm and composed. This sends a powerful message. You aren't someone who is easily swayed by emotions or drama. You're someone who can be trusted to stay grounded, no matter what happens. It's in these moments of silence that you gain true inner strength. Anger doesn't control you. You control your anger. And in the process, you gain the respect of those around you. Not because you shouted, not because you defended yourself aggressively, but because you chose to remain calm, collected, and thoughtful. That, my friends, is the power of silence. So, next time anger strikes, remember this: you don't have to speak to win. Sometimes, staying silent is the most powerful thing you can do. Situation 2. when you don't have all the facts. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you felt the need to speak, but deep down you weren't fully sure about what you were saying? We've all been there. It's easy to get caught up in a conversation, especially when emotions are high, and feel like you need to say something to fit in or defend your point of view. But here's the thing, talking without the full picture only weakens your position. In these moments, silence is your greatest ally. The Stoics believed in the power of restraint. They knew that not everything needs to be responded to, and not every situation requires an opinion. When you're lacking information, speaking out can lead to misunderstandings, and worst of all, it can make you look foolish. Let's think about a time when you've been in a heated conversation. Maybe it was with a coworker, a friend, or even on social media. Someone says something that feels off or makes you angry, and your first instinct is to speak up, to correct them, to show them that you know better. But hold on. Have you really gathered all the facts? Are you sure you're seeing the situation clearly? Or are you just reacting based on a few pieces of information? The Stoic philosopher Socrates once said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." Now, that may sound like a contradiction at first. Why would someone who knows nothing be wise? But the truth is, Socrates wasn't saying that we should stay ignorant. He was teaching us that, in any situation, it's better to admit we don't know all the answers rather than speak from a place of uncertainty. Think about it. How often do we rush to share our thoughts without pausing to question whether we have enough knowledge to make an informed statement? It's tempting to jump in and give an opinion, but in the end, you risk saying something that's inaccurate or worse, hurtful. The Stoics knew this, and they practiced silence as a tool for wisdom. When you're not sure of the facts, staying quiet allows you the space to observe, to gather more information, and to think critically before you speak. It shows that you're not just reacting, you're being thoughtful and deliberate. And here's the powerful thing. People respect those who speak less but with more substance. If you remain silent in these situations, people will begin to see you as someone who takes the time to think, someone who doesn't rush to judgment. Your words will hold more weight because they will be seen as carefully considered rather than just a response to fill the silence. So, the next time you find yourself in a conversation where you're not sure of the facts, pause. Instead of speaking just to fill the air, choose silence. Let the other person continue. Listen carefully. Observe their body language, their tone, and their reasoning. The more you listen, the more you learn, and the clearer your understanding will become. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It's a sign of strength, of confidence. It shows that you're comfortable enough with yourself to not need to have an opinion on everything. It's a powerful tool for personal growth and understanding. And when you finally do speak, you'll find that your words will come from a place of wisdom, not impulse. So, when you don't have all the facts, remember the Stoic lesson. Stay silent, observe, and wait for clarity. You'll be glad you did. Situation 3. When someone is trying to manipulate you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone was trying to get you to do something that didn't feel right? Maybe they were trying to sell you something you didn't need, or maybe they were trying to pull you into an argument that didn't even concern you. The thing is, when someone is trying to manipulate you, they're looking for one thing, a reaction. They want to see you get emotional, defensive, or distracted. But what if, instead of reacting, you just stayed silent? You see, silence is a tool, one that many people don't fully understand. When someone is trying to manipulate you, the best thing you can do is nothing. Absolutely nothing. When you stay silent, it disarms them. It removes their power. Manipulators often rely on emotional responses to control you. They want you to feel guilty, angry, or pressured into agreeing with them. But here's the thing. When you don't give them that response, they're left with nothing to work with. Think about it for a second. Have you ever been in a situation where someone tried to get you to buy something you didn't want, or maybe tried to convince you to make a decision you weren't comfortable with? It happens all the time. Maybe it's a sales pitch, or maybe it's a friend who keeps asking for favors, or even a colleague trying to guilt trip you into something. In all of these situations, the manipulator is hoping for a reaction, a response that will give them the power to push you further. But instead of reacting, think about staying silent. Think about stepping back and taking a moment to pause. Don't rush to fill the silence with words. When you stay quiet, the manipulator is forced to fill the silence themselves. And here's what happens. They'll either back off, realize they don't have control, or show their true colors. In every case, your silence becomes your power. Think about how powerful silence can be. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable people become when they're met with silence? They fidget, they start talking faster, or they try to fill the gap with more words. They're trying to regain control. But when you stay quiet, you're showing them that you're not easily swayed. You're showing them that you're in control of your emotions, and you're not going to be manipulated into doing something against your will. Let's break this down with an example. Imagine you're in a situation where a friend is trying to pressure you into going somewhere you really don't want to go. They keep saying things like, "Come on, it'll be fun," or "Everyone else is going, you should come too." They're pushing all the right buttons to get you to say yes. But instead of jumping in with an excuse or feeling guilty for saying no, you just stay silent. You don't say anything for a moment. That silence will make them uncomfortable because they're not getting the response they were expecting. They may even repeat themselves, but your silence will continue to show that you're not playing their game. And in that moment, you've already won. When someone tries to manipulate you, they want to steer you into their narrative. But silence breaks that narrative. Silence makes them question their approach, puts the control back in your hands. You're no longer a pawn in their game. You're the one calling the shots. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation where someone is trying to manipulate you, whether it's through guilt, pressure, or emotional tactics, remember, your silence is your strength. By not reacting, you gain control over the situation. You stay calm, you stay powerful, and you never let anyone manipulate you into something you don't want. That's the wisdom of Stoicism in action. Situation 4. When others are gossiping. Gossip is something we all encounter. Whether it's in the workplace, at a family gathering, or just among friends, it's something we've all been part of or at least overheard. But here's the thing, the moment we engage in gossip, we are lowering ourselves to a level where judgment and negativity thrive. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes in. The Stoics didn't just ignore gossip, they avoided it completely, not because they were too proud, but because they understood the true cost of getting involved. Imagine this. You're at work, and you hear two colleagues whispering about another coworker. Maybe they're talking about their performance, or maybe they're sharing some personal details that should remain private. You feel the urge to join in, maybe add your own opinion, or just listen because it's the easiest thing to do. But here's where the real power lies, you choose to stay silent. When you remain silent in these situations, you are practicing something incredibly powerful. You're showing that you are above the pettiness and negativity that gossip brings. You're not feeding into the drama. And here's why that's important. Gossip doesn't just hurt the person being talked about. It harms everyone involved. It erodes trust, spreads negativity, and damages relationships. And you, by staying silent, are refusing to be a part of it. The Stoics were clear about this. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that we should keep our speech reserved, speaking only when necessary and when it adds value to the conversation. Gossip rarely adds value. Instead, it only fuels division and discontent. Think about it. When you gossip, you lower your own reputation. People start to think, if they're talking about them, they'll probably talk about me too. But when you stay silent, others notice. They see you as a person of integrity. They respect you because they know you won't lower yourself to speak ill of others. It's a subtle but powerful shift in how people perceive you. Now, don't get me wrong. There will be times when you're tempted. Someone might say something that you know isn't true, or you might feel that someone's getting away with something they shouldn't. It's easy to want to speak up, to set the record straight, to defend yourself, or even defend someone else. But the Stoics would urge you to resist this temptation. Why? Because in the end, your silence keeps your peace intact. It prevents you from getting swept up in a storm that isn't yours to fight. Instead of reacting, think of silence as a tool to take control of the situation. Silence makes the gossiper uncomfortable. They expect a reaction, a nod, a comment, maybe even a laugh. But when you stay quiet, they start to feel that what they're doing is wrong. Your silence is loud. It speaks volumes. It's a reminder that you're not interested in the drama. that you have more important things to focus on, things that bring you peace and growth. And if you think staying silent will make you appear weak or uninterested, think again. The real strength comes from holding your ground. By remaining silent, you're not allowing others' negativity to disrupt your peace or your path. And that, in itself, is an incredibly powerful statement. So next time gossip starts to swirl around you, remember the wisdom of the Stoics. Don't be a part of the noise. Stay silent. Keep your peace. People will notice the difference, and they'll respect you for it. Situation 5. When you're being criticized unfairly. We all know how it feels when someone criticizes us. But what happens when the criticism is unfair? It's one of those moments when emotions can quickly take control. But if we follow the Stoic path, we realize that silence is our greatest defense in these situations. Let's break it down. Imagine this: you've been working hard on a project. You've put in long hours, thought things through carefully, and done your best. Then, out of nowhere, someone points out flaws that aren't even there. They criticize you harshly, maybe even in front of others. Stings, doesn't it? The urge to defend yourself rises up instantly. But here's the thing, responding immediately often makes the situation worse. In these moments, the Stoics would say, don't let the moment control you. Control how you react. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, often wrote about the importance of inner calm in the face of criticism. He knew that if we react too quickly, we often give up our power. When we fire back defensively, we allow the other person's words to control our emotions, and that's when we lose. Think about it. If you stay silent, your critic will often reveal more about themselves than they realize. They may feel the need to fill the silence with more words, digging a deeper hole for themselves. In the meantime, you've maintained your dignity. You've shown that you don't need to defend yourself against unfair words. And that silence speaks volumes. The key is not to take things personally. This is tough, especially when we feel attacked. But remember, their words say more about them than they do about you. The Stoics believed that people's opinions and criticisms were often rooted in their own flaws, insecurities, or misunderstandings. And when someone criticizes you without fully understanding the situation, it's their ignorance speaking, not the truth. Instead of retaliating, take a deep breath. Give yourself time to process. A simple, quiet nod can show that you've heard them, but it doesn't mean you agree. This moment of silence gives you control, and it allows you to respond thoughtfully when the time is right. The silence also forces the other person to pause and reflect. They may even begin to realize their mistake or realize they've been too harsh. In that stillness, they'll begin to see that you're not the one losing control, their judgment is. If they continue to press you, you can respond calmly with a few carefully chosen words. A gentle response, like, I see your point, or, I'll consider that, can defuse the situation and show that you're not rattled. You don't need to argue to prove you're right. The silence itself shows your strength. But what if the criticism continues? Well, sometimes the best choice is to walk away. You don't have to sit through an unfair attack just to prove your worth. Your worth is already known. By walking away or simply choosing to remain silent, you maintain your peace and keep your self-respect intact. So next time someone unfairly criticizes you, remember the Stoic lesson. Let silence do the work for you. By keeping quiet, you'll show strength, wisdom, and emotional control, something that will earn you much more respect than a loud defense ever could. Situation 6. When you're in the presence of fools. We've all been there. You're in a room full of people, and someone starts spouting nonsense. Maybe they're bragging about something they don't know much about, or they're making outlandish claims that don't add up. The worst part? They're so loud and confident, it almost feels like they believe their own lies. It's frustrating, isn't it? But here's the thing. Arguing with a fool only makes you look foolish. The Stoics were very clear on this. They understood that the best way to deal with a fool is often to say nothing at all. Why? Because silence exposes ignorance in a way words never will. Think about it for a moment. When you engage in a heated debate with someone who isn't even willing to listen, what happens? You're wasting your time and energy, and all it does is feed their ego. They might argue louder, twist the facts, and try to get the last word. But by staying silent, you're doing two things. You're maintaining your dignity, and you're letting them expose themselves. They might look around, expecting support, but most people can sense when someone is talking nonsense. Your silence speaks volumes. Now, silence doesn't mean you're backing down or agreeing with them. It doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, it's the opposite. Silence in the face of foolishness is a sign of strength and self-control. It's knowing that not every fight is worth engaging in. Think of it like a chess game. You don't need to move every piece on the board. Sometimes just waiting and watching is the best strategy. Imagine a situation where you're at a family gathering and a relative starts talking about something they don't fully understand. Maybe it's politics or science or even something like nutrition. They're going on, talking with so much conviction, but you know that they're completely wrong. Your instinct might be to jump in and correct them, to explain all the facts and logic behind your point of view. But resisting the urge to correct them is actually the wiser move. Why? Because correcting them won't change their mind. They've already made up their mind, and no amount of arguing will shake them. Worse, you could end up in a heated exchange that ruins the atmosphere for everyone around you. Instead, let them talk. People like this will expose themselves over time. The more they speak, the clearer it becomes to others that they don't know what they're talking about. Let's take a moment to think about what it means when you stay silent in these situations. It shows that you're secure enough in your own knowledge and beliefs to not feel threatened by ignorance. It shows that you're not interested in wasting your time on battles that don't matter. And above all, it shows that you value your peace more than you value being right. So, what's the Stoic lesson here? The next time you find yourself surrounded by nonsense, instead of diving into a debate that will lead nowhere, just sit back, observe, and let the foolishness speak for itself. Because in the end, silence will always be your greatest weapon against ignorance. Remember, a fool can't hear reason when they're too busy making noise. Let them. You don't have to. Situation 7. When you're making a major decision. In life, there are moments when a decision feels so important, it could change everything. Maybe it's a job offer, a financial investment, or a decision about your relationships. These moments can be overwhelming. The world around you may be urging you to hurry, to act fast. But here's where the wisdom of the Stoics can truly guide us. Silence is not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of clarity. When you're standing at the crossroads of a major decision, the temptation to rush into action is real. The pressure to make the right choice quickly can cloud your judgment. We live in a world that constantly demands answers and quick responses. But the Stoics knew that in such moments, silence is your best ally. Let's think about it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Think before you speak." Simple advice, yet incredibly powerful. Imagine sitting in a room full of people, everyone expecting you to make a decision right now. The pressure is intense. But what if, instead of rushing in, you took a step back? You just took a moment to sit with the decision, to feel the weight of it in silence. That pause alone can change everything. The Stoics believed that before we act, we need to reflect deeply. Epictetus, another great Stoic, taught us to ask ourselves, what's the right thing to do here? What aligns with my values? It's not about making a decision based on emotion or external pressure. It's about taking the time to understand yourself first. What do you truly want? What are your priorities? It's easy to get caught up in the noise of the world, where everyone has an opinion, and you feel like you have to decide now. But in those moments of uncertainty, silence forces you to cut through the chaos and listen to what your mind and heart are really saying. When you're silent, you allow your intuition to guide you. You create space to consider all angles. Sometimes, when we're too eager to make a decision, we miss out on seeing things clearly. It's like trying to solve a puzzle in a rush. You might force the pieces together, but they won't fit. Silence gives you the chance to find the right pieces, to make the right connections. Think about the big decisions in your life, the ones that shaped your future. If you could go back, how many of them would you have made differently if you'd just taken a few more moments to pause, to be silent and think clearly? Silence doesn't mean inaction. It's not about avoiding decisions altogether. Instead, Silence is about creating the space you need to make the best decision possible. When we rush, we risk making a choice we might later regret. But when we take a moment to breathe, to reflect, we invite wisdom into our lives. So, next time you're faced with a major decision, instead of reacting immediately, take a moment of silence. Sit with your thoughts, clear your mind, and ask yourself, what is the best choice for me in the long run? When you do this, you'll find that your decisions are much clearer, and you'll move forward with confidence, knowing that your choice was made with wisdom, not haste. In a world that moves too fast, the greatest power you have is the ability to be still, to sit with your thoughts, reflect, and then act with intention. Silence isn't a lack of action. It's a way of bringing clarity to your actions. And that is the Stoic way. Situation 8. When someone reveals their true colors. Have you ever had someone you trusted betray you? Maybe a friend, a colleague, or even a family member. Can sting, right? That feeling of disbelief, the shock that someone you thought had your back could actually hurt you. But here's the thing. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. This is where silence becomes your secret weapon. When someone reveals their true colors, don't rush to react. Don't argue, don't get defensive, and definitely don't try to explain yourself. Instead, just stay silent. It's not about being weak or passive. It's about understanding that your silence speaks louder than any words could. When someone shows you their true nature, whether it's through dishonesty, betrayal, or cruelty, silence is your way of showing them you see them. You don't need to engage. The truth is out, and now it's time for you to process it. Often, people reveal who they really are not just through their actions, but also through the way they try to justify their actions or shift the blame. You don't have to play into that. Think about it this way. When someone betrays your trust, what's the point in arguing with them? They already know what they did. Trying to make them feel guilty or forcing an apology will rarely work. Instead, silence forces them to confront their actions without you needing to say a word. It's like holding a mirror up to them and letting them see their reflection, without you needing to speak. The longer you stay silent, the more unsettling it becomes for them. Why? Because people expect a reaction. They expect you to get angry, hurt, or even beg for an explanation. But when you don't react, when you stay calm and collected, it makes them question what they've done. This doesn't mean you should ignore the situation forever. Silence in these moments is about giving yourself time to process the hurt, the betrayal, or the disappointment. Don't feel the need to address the issue right away. In fact, waiting a while before you speak up can actually be more powerful than responding in the heat of the moment. You can then decide if you want to have a conversation with them, or if it's better to just walk away. Sometimes, walking away from a person or situation that no longer serves you is the most empowering thing you can do. There's also a level of respect that comes with silence. When someone betrays you, don't waste your time or energy arguing or defending yourself. By staying silent, you show them that their actions don't have the power to affect your peace. You maintain your composure, your dignity, and you let them deal with the consequences of their own choices. In the end, silence is strength. It's a sign that you are in control of yourself and the situation. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, especially to those who have shown their true colors. Let them expose themselves while you remain calm, wise, and in control. So, the next time someone shows their true nature, remember, silence is your most powerful response. It allows you to protect your peace and makes it clear that you're not interested in playing their game. You're too focused on what truly matters: your own growth, your own peace, and your own path forward. Situation 9. When you are at peace. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it's easy to get caught up in the chaos. We live in a time where everyone seems to be speaking, sharing their opinions, or rushing toward the next big thing. But in the midst of all this, one of the greatest powers you can have is the ability to simply be quiet. To embrace the peace that comes from within, without feeling the need to prove anything to anyone. Have you ever experienced that moment where everything just feels calm? Where the noise of the world fades into the background, and all that remains is you, at peace with yourself. In those moments, silence isn't just a choice. It's a reflection of your inner strength. It's a clear sign that you've learned to detach from the chaos around you, and more importantly, that you don't need the validation of others to feel whole. When you are at peace, you realize something very powerful. You don't need to fill every silence with words. So many people think that in order to feel validated, they have to speak, to share their thoughts, to constantly make their voices heard. But the Stoics teach us something different. They show us that silence can be the most powerful response of all. When you are truly at peace, you stop feeling the urge to defend yourself. You no longer feel the need to explain your actions or justify your thoughts. Your confidence is no longer dependent on the approval of others. You are simply comfortable in your own skin, and that peace you carry with you speaks louder than words ever could. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that to be successful or respected, you need to constantly make noise. You need to be the loudest in the room, the one with the most opinions, the one who always has something to say. But the reality is that true respect doesn't come from how much you speak. It comes from how well you understand the value of silence. And the best way to understand silence is by living it. The next time you find yourself in a group, surrounded by chatter and noise, remember this. Your silence is not an absence, it's a presence. It's a statement that you don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to over-explain yourself, and you don't need to prove anything to anyone. In those moments of peace, you also begin to realize that you control your space. You control your energy, and you no longer feel the pressure to conform to the noise of the world. The peace you have is the ultimate freedom. It's the freedom to simply exist, to observe, to reflect, and to move through life without needing to draw attention to yourself. The beauty of this silence is that it's not about avoiding interaction or shutting people out. It's about being so comfortable in your own peace that you no longer feel the need to fill the space with words. It's about choosing your words wisely and only speaking when it adds value. This is where true power lies. In the quiet moments when you don't feel the need to prove yourself to anyone. In the moments when you are perfectly content with who you are, without needing anyone else's approval. And that, my friends, is the power of silence. So, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Are there moments when you find yourself speaking just to fill the silence? Or are there moments when you embrace the quiet, letting your presence speak for itself? When you are at peace, you'll find that silence is not something to fear. It's something to embrace. And in this silence, you'll discover the strength that comes from simply being at ease with yourself. And there you have it, 9 situations where silence isn't just golden, it's powerful. It's easy to get caught up in the noise of life, but remember, silence isn't a weakness. It's a tool for strength, clarity, and control. When you choose silence at the right moments, you gain something far more valuable than just avoiding conflict. You gain wisdom. So, the next time you feel the urge to speak or react, take a step back. Think about these 9 moments and ask yourself, is my silence the most powerful response? More often than not, the answer will be yes. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these situations hit home the hardest? Are there other times when you found silence to be your secret weapon? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear your stories. If you found value in this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Stoic wisdom that can transform the way you approach life. Thanks for watching, and remember, the power of silence is always at your fingertips. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, stay silent, and stay wise.